So we're getting into a couple of conversations this morning. And even as we get into it, a friend to the hot seat of the Situation Room this morning is Rachael Mwikali. Rachael is the Executive Director for the Coalition for Grassroot Human Rights Defenders. And this morning, we're looking at safeguarding women's rights, why the gendered spirit of the Constitution must be implemented and must be implemented now. Rachael, good morning.
Good morning, Dee.
How are you?
Nice to be back. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
2025.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Good to have you here. So let's welcome you properly now that you've been away from us for so long. CT has a proverb. You're going to like it. Then maybe you can tell us how you would interpret it, right?
Okay.
Yes, our proverbs for this week come from the Republic of Mali. I have to learn to walk on 3 legs, says the hyena, for when I am old. Okay.
Imagine.
The hyena is saying, I have to walk on 3 legs. So that now that I have 4, let me just walk on 3 so that I can get used to it. So that when I'm old, I now know how to cope. You know, I've actually interpreted it for you.
City, I think because of your wisdom, and also I'm raised well. I'm a good African girl. So because we're taking wisdom from you, could you please try and interpret and then I can jump in?
Mwikali, let me interpret that you can jump in, all right? But warn me at what point you want to jump in, shall you? I have to learn, this is what the hyena is saying, I have to learn to walk on 3 legs, okay? Why? For when I am old. When we all get old, let's look at human beings. When they get old, how do they walk? When they get really old. I'm old. Now, when you get older than me, that's now what you call really old. Okay?
Yeah.
How do old people walk?
I think it depends. Some will walk with a stick.
Good.
Which also maybe we might look from that perspective of maybe 3 legs. The others who maybe have done exercise and eaten well, especially like people from my region, Kambani, because we are long distance walker.
Long distance walker.
We walk a long distance, so we don't get old that much. However, like there are many things happens also when you get old that you need also support. Yeah.
See? You knew it.
You understood.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need support.
So you just prepare for them ahead of time.
Yes.
Essentially.
See, you jumped in at the right time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Something that's great. And look, Mwikali, this conversation that we're having this morning is not a new one. But sometimes it's necessary to keep talking about things because then we put it front and center and make it top of mind of, the society and communities. We've had a gendered conversation. We've talked about women's rights. We've talked about this over and over again. Before we even get into why, what the Constitution envisages and actually asks government to do, let's look at the importance of making this happen and why. Why do we keep talking about it?
I think one of the things that we need to acknowledge, women's rights are human rights, and Kenyan government has signed to international declaration around human rights. And if we look in terms of rights being equal, we can't ignore that even as women, we exist as human beings. And when I mean women, is women in our own diversity, because also women, we are not homogeneous. And then also comes the perspective of also women with disability. However, if you look in Kenya, even the struggle of the liberation struggle during the independence, a lot of also women played a critical role. However, it has been erased even during the whole period. Even if you walk in town in the CBD, even the books we read in schools, they did not highlight so much about the women's struggle. But it's very crucial and important. And if you're talking about safeguarding human rights, even as women human rights defenders who are in the forefront, it means we can live in a society where one gender rights are more seen as important than the others. And that's why, like all of us, through our ancestors who came before us, like the late Mekatili Menza, Professor Wangari Maathai, and Muthoni Nyanjiro, these are the spirit that also us in our own generation have to keep on carrying forward. Because even if we are women who are fighting for rights, we're fighting for the rights of everybody.
Okay.
And we're fighting also for our rights to exist as human beings. We're fighting for our rights also based on the Article 27 of the Constitution that everybody is equal. And we can't talk about non-discrimination, or else even now, even me, myself, Mwikali, in this country, I feel discriminated by my government. Yeah.
What are these rights that we're fighting for women?
We can go so fast, rights to health. We have seen also what has been going on with the share shift and everything, where we are seeing even currently, even with the state of sexual reproductive health and rights, where women are not able to access contraceptive, family planning, which also takes away our right on bodily autonomy and our integrity, because you're left in a choice that you're not able to decide even when to have children and not. And even if you're having children, you're not able to access these services, which is on health fundamental. Right. Also, if we look in terms of safety and protection, all of us now, we're in a conversation of femicide in this country. All of us are not feeling safe as women in our diversity in this country, because even if you're dating someone, you don't know how safe you are. Even from the lowest unit, which is family and household, you're not safe. In the public space, we are not safe. You also, on 10th of December, as part of End Femicide movement in Kenya, we did a big protest in Nairobi and across the country during the International Women's Day. To be unfortunate and sad, when we went to the streets, the police who were supposed to protect us, they were the ones who were harassing us sexually. They tear gas us and they beat us. And we did not get any justice, as much as the president said he had a good political will to end femicide and to protect us women in this country. What we got is that the police, the IG said they are going to transfer police and the OCS from Central, whereas these police were not held accountable. So how does justice look like if you're saying you're fighting for our rights? And even some of us, even if you're fighting for our rights, we're also outside to fight for the rights of other women, and the government is the one who is abusing us. So you find these rights are very intersectional. Even if you see even the farmers, the peasant farmers who are working so hard, we have been seeing also criminalization of seed, which affects also women, because majority of farmers are also women. We are seeing also when it comes to right on housing, still, I live in Mathare, and one of the biggest issues we had even last year during the floods, there's a lot of also like women who lost even their loved one, and people in general, like the public. However, the support did not come inclusive, because we understand like every Kenya can go through different inequalities and injustice. However, the people who suffer the most is us women, even when it comes to workplace, in terms of protection, when it comes to sexual harassment, when it comes to gender-based violence, we're the ones who suffer most. And we have seen these gains being safeguarded. However, we are seeing them backsliding. Also with the geopolitics, what's happening in the US, what's also happening in Kenya. Kenya signing the Geneva Consensus Declaration, which is a very problematic document. Even me currently now I'm in court with the Ministry of Health because of their problematic sexual reproductive health policy 2022 to 2032. So you find it's we are in a fight, we are in a war, safeguarding also the gained rights. Now they're declining. And there's also the two-third gender rule, which we have been fighting now more than ever, that we're not getting even what even the Kenya Kwanza government said, when they get into power, we're going to have 50-50 presentation of women even in parliament. And currently also it's sad that we don't have the gender CS in position, and we have had other CS who have been appointed, but now we don't have. So where does it put us as women in this country? Or even, because when you talk about gender, it's not just only about women, it's about also being gender diverse. Yeah.
You know, the thing that I always find interesting about this discussion is everything you say is actually true. But when it talks about the forward movement, we mention changes that are positive, but one doesn't see those changes in abundance, which leads me to ask the question, when we aren't demonstrating or we don't have a fundamental problem that is getting us to tear our hair or pull our hair apart, what efforts are made to get units within the society like the police force to actually understand these things? Because if you are a freedom fighter, because that's what you are, surely to get people on your side, if you have people who constantly seem to be the ones who cause you unnecessary problems, what efforts are made to get them to understand what it is that you are doing? Because, like now, we're not demonstrating about anything.
Yeah.
Right now, it's not that there's nothing to demonstrate about. It's just that we are not demonstrating right now.
Yeah.
Are efforts made to bring some of these people who act adversarially on board so that they can actually chime in with what it is that you stand for?
Yes. So I like the question, Siti, because let me give an example of end femicide movement in Kenya. When we started, people think because of the biggest march in January last year is when the work started. Whereas we started in 2018 during Justice for Sharon Otieno. We all remember Sharon Otieno, who was murdered a university student. So this has been a continuous mobilization work even when I've been coming to the studio, where even we have to do narrative work, educating our communities, because also we don't come in silos. We live in communities. We live in families. So we can't say even, Rachael, I'm doing human rights work and I'm not starting with my family. I have to start with my family. Even if you see how religious institution operate, they start with their own family. So some of the efforts that has been done and continue to be done, even if people are not going to the protest, before we go to the protest is usually the last option. We usually start from even dialogue. What can we do with the government? Even currently when they have come with a task force for femicide, we are a bit disappointed because one, we gave recommendation last year in January of the things we want to see being changed, whereas they did not pick it. They come with a task force and say, here is the team. However, some of us have engaged with some members of the task force because we know them from different fields. And one of the things we have realized, some of them have zero clue what femicide is. So it's even now it's becoming our role as also citizens who understand what femicide and the intersectionality around it to educate them. And some of these people are duty bearers. We have had also a responsibility of educating the police because there's this idea, people also confuse, let's say, femicide with homicide. People confuse only femicide can happen, let's say, when you're in a relationship only with, let's say, with a man, or when you're in a relationship with your boyfriend. But we have seen even in my own region, in Ukambani, where children are killing their mothers. We have seen in churches, even there was a clip last week going around, religious leaders banning a woman and saying she's a witch.
Yeah.
Which is so sad. So even most of the biggest role that we continue to do even in our own community is to do public awareness and educate each other. At the same time, creating baraza within our own communities, not boardroom, within our own community, people to just unpack, why are these things happening? Because we never had these things of women being killed. We never had these things of gender-based violence being normalized.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just going to pick it when you say we never had. Because I'm curious then, if you have data you can refer to, when you say we've never had these cases, is it that they are just being reported more, they have existed, or as human rights you are pushing harder? I'm very curious about the word never, saying we've never had such cases before, is it?
Okay, so like to come to the point of saying never had, also to reflect and also correct a bit, is that even if they existed, they were never this high. And if we say about data, I can quote the Odipo Dev 1 that came in African Uncensored of some of these cases of femicide. Let's say, example, they are perpetrated by, let's say, husbands, boyfriends. It's in least cases that is by strangers. Least cases by strangers. And when we say about even being there and being in the lowest minimum, is that one of the things also need to give credit to media as much, as much as there's a bit of corrections that media has been amplifying and giving room for us to come and speak about it. Because the way I said when we started, even people had refused and say, you people should not use the word femicide, use homicide. Because there's nothing as femicide even within our constitution. Like, this is another form of gender-based violence that exists. People are being targeted because they are women. However, if you look in 19 and City, because also you are an elder, and I'm not using ages in politics, when Modoni Nyanjiro was murdered outside Central Police Station, was it 1922? You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Just hold it. You think I was alive in 1922?
No, you're not alive in 1922. I don't know, but I'm just saying. Wisdom, eh?
Institutional memory.
Institutional memory. This is also part of femicide case because she was murdered existing also as a woman. And you can imagine those years and now where we are currently, it's a long year. However, these more cases are increasing. And also that also comes to the idea of why is Kenyan government not declaring femicide a national emergency, beyond just saying we are giving you 100 million. You can't compare 100 million with our lives.
Looking at the evolution of gender and development, way back,
from the West. Some say this is a matter of the West. You're being misinformed. What is really the actual need of the average Kenyan woman today? And you've mentioned that the government is discriminating, something like that.
Yes.
Just let's say Lady X, or use me as an example. What do you think I really need at this point in time, that if you speak on my behalf and state it to the government, it will represent my voice? Where am I as a woman, and what do you call upon the government to do?
I think if you say gender justice work is a West idea, it's wrong, because we have seen African women, proudly us, that day in, day out, we toil day in to ensure like our society moves. Society moves and things move. And that's why for me, when it comes to gender struggle from a Pan-African level as a feminist, people have different struggle. And that's why we say struggles are very intersectional. They depend on each other. And that's why we can't reduce our lives as women to be only today for me to feel that I'm represented by you. We have to talk only about, let's say, right to wage, or rights to be protected in the workplace. However, we know there are also, let's say, other women who are just struggling to be identified for who they are and how they exist. And that's why when it comes about women's rights, we can't avoid and say our rights are very intersectional. And also we don't need to just say we are electing, for example, Rachael to speak on our behalf, but looking at how do we safeguard that our rights as human beings and how they need to exist and to be respected as rights. Because currently, when we say government is not doing anything, in reality, it's not. It's not. Like the parliament, already there's been orders from the judiciary to disband the parliament because of not respecting the 2/3 gender rule. It has never been doing that way. Let me now put the radical activist at. In terms of also, when we talk even the people who are in power position, even in Kenya, and why also it becomes hard when you ask me the question, what do we want government? Already we have told the government what we want, even from when we protest, we are very clear on our message and narrative. We want cases to move fast for femicide. They're not moving fast. They're taking too long, and some of the perpetrators are out. Currently, I'm following a case in Machakos County, Chua, Yatta sub-county. This is a woman who had a property. They used to live with a man who they were married, and then the man came and threatened her, almost killing her, and then the man now is out. Are we assuring that woman of her safety? And because the community came to protect her when the man was trying to kill her, the community was able to say, okay, now you can't move out of this community, you have to call the police to come and arrest you. Now the woman is being accused of now calling the community to fight the man. So when also we are following the police or the rule of law and it's not working in our favor, what does it mean as women?
I can hear when you say that, but then the argument could be put across for anybody who resides within the boundaries of Kenya today, that when you look at the justice system, it grinds really slow for everybody who gets into the system. So how do you make the distinct difference between what would be an abrogation of women's rights or anybody's rights for that matter? How do we separate them and say that this is against women's rights, where others would say that it's against anybody's rights if you're in court for 5 years for a case?
I think the thing, even that the way we said women's rights are human rights, we can't say they are not human rights. Like the way everybody rights needs to be taken serious is the same way even as women we are saying our rights must be taken serious. And that's why even now, why I was using femicide as a case is because it's the biggest issue currently in the country. That many, not that there are no other issues, there are many issues. Even now, the way the politicians are dealing with us, stealing, and the way we are seeing. But our questions comes to a point of, why are they not taking these cases seriously the way they took the impeachment of Rigiji? For me, I believe if judiciary wants to work, they can work. If police wants to work, they can work. We have seen them making things work when it's in their favor, especially when it comes to impeachment. They are too fast. When it comes to public participation, we have seen, even last year now, even the country, everybody was very active on public participation in ensuring that some rules as right holders towards the duty bearers are being followed. Why is it when it comes to our rights as women, we are being told, aki munapigana sana, munapiga kelele sana. Even now with the femicide, when the president says giving 100 million, everybody was like, oh mama, wache upiga kelele mkona 100 million. So which 100 million that we can say it's bigger than our life? We're the same people also who go to protest, let's say when there's abduction, when there's extrajudicial killings. We are all vocal as women. But when it comes for us fighting for ourselves, it's usually dehumanized, that you women are too much, you have had enough. Or else, there's one bit of having, but also safeguarding and protecting. That's another bit.
Mwikali.
Yeah.
So, since we are Kenyans and there's something in such circumstances we do very effectively, we look for people to blame. So, who should we blame here?
Number one, the president himself. And the leaders, not only just the president, because also I'm looking from also the county governments. In terms, we have the governors, the MCA, the MP. Some of the laws, we have good laws, they just need to implement. Even the police, the IG, even the health. As long as, for me, I believe, as long as it's the public system also need to do that. Because as citizens, we have done our parts.
I want to throw you a curveball here.
Okay.
Are we going to a break?
No, go ahead. You can do that. Throw the curveball. Then we go into a break.
All these people have mothers, don't they?
Yes, they have mothers.
How do we bring up our men, our boys?
Our men.
Yes. How do we bring as mothers? How are boys brought up?
One, it's a responsibility.
And how are they brought up if they're also girls in the family? How do they relate to each other? What's the power structure and the power dynamics?
That's why also as a society, we need to change our social norms. No, I'm coming there. Because also it's not the responsibility of women to bring up men in a good way. Because we know a lot of also men are deadbeat fathers. They make a woman pregnant, they disappear, and then they make the responsibility. So also for me comes on to the community responsibility.
Rachel, let me help you answer CT's question before we go to a break, because this is something that we have to look at.
Yeah.
And I almost I can tell where CT is going with this,
Yeah.
because women, even when they're bringing up boys and girls together, give the girls the responsibility and coddle the boys.
Yes.
And make the boys feel as though they're little kings onto their own fiefdoms. That you don't have to touch a thing, and that the girl who is your sister, who saves the same mother and father, will serve you. You don't have to touch a thing. It is the mother who insists, don't make him do any work. No.
But you see also, the mother also is being raised in that patriarchal system and structure where...
But she continues
and that's why
the fact that she's continuing it. Yes.
Yeah, that's also the problem. But also it does not become the blame of the mother. It becomes the blame of also the society.
It isn't
on how
blame.
we need to change.
Rachel.
Who is
including
society?
whether it's men or women. Because if you say Ndu, and my sister,
Yes.
that we make it...
She's called Ankey.
Ankey.
Yes.
Okay, Ankey. If you say, also we say it's the mother, but if you look even me, Rachel, I had to unlearn these patriarchal things. That, Rachel, these things are not done this way. Even for you, when also you give delegation, it doesn't have to be a girl or a boy, it has to be done equally. So it comes back to even now when you say also the role and responsibility. As much as we say our rights, also we have our own responsibility, that even the mother and the father or people in the community, because not all families are women-headed household or men-headed household.
Okay.
They're also child-headed household. How do we shift this idea that it's only girls who can, let's say, wash dishes and not boys?
Okay.
And also we are seeing in a society where people are saying it's collectively, it's communal.
Rachel, let me take you back to, of course, the blame. Yeah. The role of the women in this, because of course you cannot assume that everybody has the information, and that's exactly why you're here. But how are women contributing to, less progress to what you are pushing for? Because as much as you're empowered, not every other woman that is listening today might have the same information based on how they're raised, their background. So what do you think is the role of the women in this, both those who are aware and those who are yet to be aware?
I like the question, Angie, and going back to before we end the break around even how we are socialized as women or as society, because also I don't want to put it as if it's a women problem. I want to talk about women's rights. I think for me, even being a movement builder and someone who works within mobilizing community on the ground, is that this is a collective work. And that's why, like, if a woman, for example, like you choose to speak out against women's rights violation, it's supposed to be a collective struggle that other women and men, or even gender-conforming people, are able to say, we are here with you and we support you. However, we can't discredit that we have had also women like ourselves, the way we are fighting patriarchy, that they have been socialized from a patriarchal point of view, and also misogyny, that sometimes when they get to power, they forget where they have come from. But it's because of also how they're being socialized that it's only this and these things belongs to men, or it's only boys who can be able to enjoy rights and not girls. Even our education curriculum, and this also goes back also to our education system. If you have gone through a Kenyan system of study, there's this book we used to read, was it in class 3, for Mr. Kamau and something, that even on how they portrayed a family, a father, a mother, a boy and a girl, and the privilege a boy used to be given or more than a girl. So you find even as you grow up, even as a woman and being in this society, you're like, my mind is that men needs to be having this and not this. However, we can't discourage, even when I was using the example of why we need even our own African history to be back. Most of the powerful communities in Africa were run by women. And that's why I gave example of also Modoni Nanjiro, the roles she played during the struggle. Field Marshal Modoni. Also, even the women who used to be fighting during the Mama were also spies. They played a big role in ensuring where we are. So I feel the most responsibility that we need, even you, myself, and even CT, is to ensure that the narrative changes.
Okay.
That women are not seen as only receiver, but also they are givers.
Okay.
They are also leaders. However, it doesn't mean also, for example, even the biggest issue we have had also in judiciary, that if, for example, a woman leader is not performing, you can't hold her accountable. She needs to be held accountable.
Okay.
For example, if the MP that we have elected, they're not playing the big role they have, it does not limit me as Rachael that we should not hold them accountable the same way we're holding the men accountable. Because, and that's why I refuse this narrative that what are the women rep doing? We do not only vote for women rep, they're not only voted by women, they're also voted by men. So it should be, as leaders, what are they doing? Not saying as women rep.
Okay.
So it's also politics around narrative. But we can't disacknowledge that this is a society, also collective work of how we're being socialized.
How do you deal with the entrenchment in culture about the place that a woman is supposed to have in society? I'm going to ask this and label it with an experience. So a couple of months ago, I was doing a documentary in Kajiado County, and on filming and doing the rest of this, the gentleman said to me, he said, "Ni sababu umebeba camera, lakini tukiwa nyumbani." Wait. In fact, he did his hand like this to me and said, basically telling me that, we don't recognize you. You women, you can't sit at the same table as us, essentially. And this was in 2024, not 2024, and he said this to me, and he said very clearly that it's not a matter of fun or jokes. You do not, when men are sitting around, you do not have a place. We don't recognize you, as that. And I listened to what he was saying. It was very clear that this is a belief that is inherent. This is, for whatever reason. That doesn't mean that they do not trust women with certain roles. But in terms of when it comes to making decisions or going out and doing 1, 2, 3 as matters of importance, the recognition of a woman is still very far. How does the entrenchment of culture now work against some of these things that we're trying to do today? I don't think that men and women can ever be equal, in my opinion. I don't think so. I don't think you can ever.
If they were equal, what would it mean?
And if exactly.
Equal.
And so now when we look at the entrenchment of culture vis-a-vis this equality that we're fighting for, what does it look like? I personally don't think we can be. But what does it look like when we say men and women should be equal to one another?
Do you need to be equal?
In the first place.
Is it necessary?
Yes, we need to be equal.
In what sense?
Equal.
I can hear
in terms of rights.
Equity or equality?
I can hear you when you say, if we're both doing the same job, we're sitting in this place, myself, CT, man, woman, sitting in this place doing the same job. Yes, we should earn the same. Don't give him more money because he's a man.
Or because he's old.
And I can understand when you say that, okay, if I should go into a banking facility today, don't tell me to bring my father's ID and my uncle and everybody else. Meanwhile, CT can present himself to the bank and they say, okay, yes, you're here, go. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
On that note, I expect. But I don't know that because we're different, we can't be equal.
So where are we different, that we can't be equal? Is it in terms of what? Because we can look, we try to see where. Is it because, for example, let me also throw this also span in the works. Is it because, for example, when you look in terms of production, is it because only women can carry a child and not a man? Because I think sometimes also we are blinded ourselves.
But she, the woman, cannot get to carry the child without the input, literally, of a man. Literally.
No, you can. With the technology, with the technology.
Okay.
No,
That's where you're going, huh?
No, with the technology.
But you're still going to need.
No, I'm coming to that level.
Okay.
With the technology, like the way even us we have been socialized is when you can have, let's say, for example, penetrative sex for you to get pregnant. Where else we are seeing clearly technology is not a must for you nowadays to have, let's say, penetrative sex for you to be pregnant.
Yes.
But with same thing that you don't need same thing that we're saying that you don't need a body, for example, for that
baby to
that conception to take place.
That's
We can put it in
the lab.
Yeah. In the lab, right?
Yeah, and that's why I'm coming to the point
but for that to happen,
you need a piece of everybody.
You do need some human being somewhere to have contributed to that process. That's
why CT, I'm bringing the eggs, you're bringing the sperms.
Exactly.
All right. And everybody's contributing.
No.
That's
I see where you're going with this. Let's take a few steps back, shall we? The issue of equality arises because of the gross inequality that one sees.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so to equalize it, one says, look, we need to do away with this. But it isn't the Constitution, because we have a Constitution that has clearly spoken on this matter. That's why I went back to how are children brought up in an African setting. That's my concern. How do you bring up the boys? How do you bring up the girls? They all grow up. And how they are brought up is what determines how they respond to this world around them.
Yes.
There are men who, because of their upbringing, respect women.
Yes.
Right.
Have no problem with women leadership. There are people who have problem with leadership, whether it is male or female.
Yes.
They just have an issue with authority. Okay? Now, to understand power dynamics, let's divorce ourselves from the women and men equation. Let's just look at how human beings respond to power. In this patriarchal African society that people speak of, what they don't understand, many of people, is that women were very powerful.
Exactly.
Extremely powerful. And their role, again, a word that many people don't want to be spoken of, the roles that they have may have looked as supportive, but they were pivotal to the continuance of that particular society. In the absence of that, that society and community
fall
will fall apart.
Yes, true.
Okay? So now, when we come back to modern times, and there is more talk about equality than there is about roles, because in any relationship, you have to understand roles, whether you like it or not.
But do we communicate? That's also the other issue.
No, we haven't even gotten to communication. You see, how do you communicate about something you don't even understand? What will you be communicating about? What I'm trying to say is this, in this long-winded statement that I'm making. The issue of how it is we treat each other in this society does need to be looked into again.
Yes.
Look at the way people understand leadership, whether they are men or women. You'll find they behave more or less the same. If we look at the impunity that we've seen from the political class, you'll find it's more or less the same. So the issue of gender here, you would say there's parity when it comes to it. Now, the question is, how did we get there? Because if we don't understand how we got there, then any discussion we have about how we can move away from it will be dead even before we even start moving. Because it is necessary. It is necessary that this discussion is had. It is necessary that it is addressed. It is necessary that we understand why it is that we are suddenly seeing a spate of men going out of their way to kill women, and some of them in the most bizarre way possible. Yes.
And I just want to bring this in, perhaps like an opinion, and also just to interrogate two questions. Do you think that women are equal? Mwikali, are women equal? If we're just to put it as equality. You and I in this room, are we equal? Are we? I want to continue that question if you have to give me the answer. Are we equal? Yes or no?
It's a gray area because of also a class issue. Because when you talk about also class issue, we can say yes, we are equal in terms of the rights, or now it needs to be. But when it comes to class issue, you're more maybe privileged or are more privileged than you. And that's also the class question comes, what also City was saying. How are we?
So equality needs to be defined essentially by
that's why,
factors.
Within the feminist movement, also that's why we're very clear when you talk about power and privilege.
Right.
So what's my privilege? Even if I'm from Madari, I'm more privileged. I can come to Spice FM and speak, or I can access. But there are many women who would have wanted to be here, but they have not that privilege.
So which equality are you fighting for? Because then you're understanding that there are certain dynamics that could come into play, even just in a pool of women. We're not homogeneous.
Yes,
Of course
exactly.
we're
That's
not.
why we use the word homogeneous.
So now there is another gender.
Yeah.
So
no, there's also the gender conforming people, which is true.
Now let's just do it, man. And I just want to come to this equality. I want to understand this equality conversation.
Yeah.
Women in themselves are not equal. You've said
But we are equal.
We're equal.
But when it comes on, like any other society, even men are not equal. Yes. Our life is very contradicting.
Okay, what
Based
is
on class.
Yes. What my question is, what is the ultimate goal at the end of it? You're fighting for equality.
Yes.
She-
I am. Talk to me like a small child.
Okay.
What are we trying to achieve in as far as equality is concerned? Men and women, or society in the place of the woman.
So,
in
and what
society.
you're trying to achieve is that when you identify as a woman in your own diversity, you don't need to be disrespected from where you come from, or who you are, whether it's based on gender, race, or class. You need also your rights based on the Constitution to be respected. If, for example, today you say, I'm going to look for a job, people will not judge you because you are young or because you are a woman. The pyramid should be the same. However, also when you talk about affirmative action, we realize on the issue that all of us are raising, on how we have been socialized, that needs to be changed. We need to rethink and to look the model in terms of ensuring that if this society has never been equal, what do we do for us to be equal? That I don't have to be scared that if I'm a leader and I'm going to vie for a political seat, they don't need to use violence for me to step down. They don't need to use my either I'm single or married, which does not apply also to our men, to judge me not to get a political power position. The ground should be equal and fair.
So fairness, you've mixed it up. Fairness and equal.
So the fairness within the
Because
process,
I believe that is equity.
the process, but the equity now is the outcome.
You know, there's something that is often talked about in the circles that you inhabit.
Which circles?
Freedom fighter. Go with freedom fighter, CT. It sounds freedom fighter. Go with freedom fighter.
It's called embracing diversity. Okay?
Yes.
The impatience that we have with people who are different from us plays out in very many ways. And a lot of it has to do with how you're socialized, really.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
We discuss tribalism in this country as though it's something that is absolutely bad and negative. In my opinion, it is not.
It's not.
Okay? It's actually, tribalism is a good thing. I mean, and I'm saying tribalism is actually a good thing. You see, when something which in and of itself is not bad is used by individuals who know how to benefit from it, they will give it the color that suits them. They will give it the hue that suits them. Okay? We have this discussion about equality because we see the inequality. If it didn't exist, this discussion wouldn't
There must be
exist.
there.
Okay?
Yeah.
We wouldn't talk about accommodating if we did not see discrimination. But the truth is that we see discrimination everywhere.
Yes.
Often when we talk about discrimination in the workplace, we are talking about the tribal balance.
Yes.
Now, we've legislated these things.
Yes.
We have legislated them. It's a step in the right direction. Many people don't have it.
Yes.
Now, how to move on to the next, and there are many other steps we need to take. Because, like, for instance, there's stereotypes.
Yeah.
Someone says, people from this place are like this. People who come from this are like this. That's stereotyping.
Yeah.
That particular journey is not a journey that let me say, it is always aspirational. You never can get it because we live with biases as human
Yes,
beings. Now,
yes.
the fight is to reduce these things, but you can't reduce them if at the very point when someone is maturing and growing up, these values are instilled in them. When they are grown up, they are not.
True.
Yes.
I agree.
I am reminded of the time when I was in university and a friend of mine, someone with whom a village mate of mine, his comment to me when said in the vernacular language that I subscribed, it was most interesting, but let me translate it into English. He told me, my friend, this university is very good, but there are not very many people who speak our language here. He had other issues.
Yep.
And he pointed them out to me and told me, I see you talking to the people from other communities. You know, can you trust them? Now, this fellow was actually a very nice chap. But that guy had spent most of his life in the village where we come from.
Yeah.
Okay? So he was not being negative. He was expressing his outlook of the world.
Yes.
Okay? There are others who do it differently, and these are the things that politicians exploit. Okay? Now, if we do not take the steps to ensure that right from the time of the educating of our children,
Yes.
whether it is ICD, especially ICD, that these values are inculcated, and it doesn't matter where you are in the country, you get to understand these issues, these salient points of diversity. When you grow up, even if you haven't seen it, when you see it, you realize, so this is what I was taught.
Yes.
I have never seen Mount Kilimanjaro physically. Have I? No. I've seen pictures. Okay? But how do I know it's Kilimanjaro? Because I've seen pictures.
Yes.
So the day I see it, I will know. Before I saw Mount Kenya physically, I'd seen pictures. So I could see, that's Mount Kenya.
That's Mount Kenya.
Yeah.
It's the same principle. So even when we talk about this discussion, because sometimes I get a bit combative, the bulk of people who are in this country who are police officers are men.
I agree.
When they sit and talk together, how do you think they talk?
And that has been the biggest challenge, to be honest, even around GPV work and even femicide.
You know where I'm going with this? I am saying this issue of women's rights, you must have many male champions of it for it to gain momentum. It can't be women fighting for their rights. There must be
Alone.
men. It can't be.
But
there must
that's
be
also
women
also
who
my
understand and know that this thing is important so that male faces are seen.
But that's also my question, CT. And also like throwing the spanner to all of us. Because I believe it's a collective work. I still believe that. And when I believe it's a collective work, I feel sometimes, this is Rachael, sometimes we live a very contradicting life. And sometimes the work all of us do is very contradicting. In this sense, we need, yes, many male champion. On the other hand, we have had also male champion, who also we have seen coming forefront. Even you, I've been watching this show, that you have been very clear even on some issues on gender. However, the same male champions will tell you, let me use also Swahili, shika dada yangu, shika mtoto wangu, utajua mimi ni nani. But the same male champion is living with another dada of someone, with another daughter of someone, but they are abusing that person. You're getting the contradiction? Do we have also as a society or community or even male, even our boyfriends, our husbands, to be in a point you have to argue that you must be a sister of someone and daughter of someone to do what is right, to do what is Ubuntu in humanity in ensuring all of us are safe?
You know the...
do you have to be in the country or in a community? Let me not say even country. And I agree in terms of what you're saying, the way I've been socialized. Me, I'm a ghetto girl, yeah. But even for me, when I was socialized...
You're a what?
Ghetto girl. Ghetto girl. Ghetto child. But me being a ghetto girl, they was socialized.
Okay, I get it.
You get it?
You get it.
So, they even me as a ghetto child or a ghetto person, they was socialized. I was always told, mababi ndo nafanya unateseka. Middle class. Mababi is middle class.
Okay.
So they were
Regardless of the
socialized.
gender?
No, not even gender.
Okay.
My first enemy was mababi, not even the government. Before the government is making you suffer, it's middle class. They're the ones who are making you suffer. Okay. And these are the things also even myself through friends who are a bit privileged. I was like, okay.
What a bit Barbie.
I was like, this is also a soul lie that I've been socialized and I need to move away from it. And we can't avoid it. Can be combative, yes, because of the work women we have done, even for us to sit in this position to protect and safeguard. However, we can't avoid, even fellow men have a responsibility to call out men also who are abusive.
Absolutely.
Yes, but also we can't deny also that the way society is, there are things also, even ourselves women, because we've been socialized in a patriarchal things, we do things also are patriarchal. Knowingly or unknowingly. There are even songs sometimes when I dance, I'm like, where? That one. Hey.
What have I done?
It does not even relate with my politics and idea, but I love it the way it is. So it's also from a point of, even with the elders doing intergenerational learning. Yes, our society were very powerful with women. But if I've been raised sitting all my life in the city, in the CBD, I don't have a village, a grandmother or a grandfather also are progressive to be able to talk to me, or even the storytelling. It becomes a challenge. And that's why also
Do you know where you get help from? That's why I went back to education. Education plays a very, very big role.
Yes.
And it can't be education when you're older. You will learn either way. It's education when people are very young.
Yes.
It has to begin there.
Exactly.
Because if you look at the impact that teachers have on students and children who are learning, children will tell the parent point blank,
My teacher said.
Exactly. And that's why I'm coming to the point of also religion, which also we might agree and disagree.
Okay.
Even the role religion plays in our education system, even in becoming, with all the due respect of religion, a barrier on gender equality, a barrier of when you're told, even in the school system, that even when things are tough in CRE, the father is always the head and everything. Or if you're abused, people can talk. Even the churches, because a lot of us, even our biggest socialization apart from school, is the religious institutions that have also played a big role, because most of our parents have been hustling, and then we end up falling in this institution that also comes and teaches things that later you're like, maybe this was a scam or this was not a scam. However, there are things also they played a big role in our lives in terms of shaping.
Yeah, because time is running out. I mean, just a real quick one from you here is that, literally in seconds, it seems that there has been hundreds of years of learning particular behavior.
Yes.
And I don't think we can unlearn that in a very short period of time. It just looks like the cyclical nature of this requires that more time is given for an embracing of these, and not even new ideas, but extra ideas. And is it not a time issue?
Yeah, it's a time issue, but also it's an investment on how do we invest in it as a society, as a country, in ensuring that we are able to live, to become part of our habits and part of our culture. That our culture is now, we need to be respecting women, we need to be treating women with respect. I know also with parity it can take a bit of more years, but you're not far. We can see some of the gains, as much as now we have also 7 governors who have been elected, then we still have more. We can get more for the next election. So it's just a matter of investing on the women and safeguarding the rights that you already have to ensure that it's protected.
Always good to have you here. And we said, it's important to have these conversations. We can't have enough of them. Rachael Mwikali is the Executive Director of the Coalition for Grassroot Human Rights Defenders. She's been our guest this hour. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.